What's going on, guys? Welcome back. It's me, Lardy D, back again today with some more gaming content. Today we are covering EverQuest from back in 2003. We are doing a story time with Lardy, so please sit back, relax with your favorite drinks, and enjoy the story. All right, let's get into it. It is rare today that opportunities for gamers to be able to step outside the designated outlines of a developer's intended gaming experience. And I'm not just talking about glitches, exploits, or mods. I'm talking about when in-game players come together to change an impossible mechanic within the game. Back in the early 2000s, players eagerly hunted down the virtual unknown, where possibility and impossibility were deadlocked within some specter of the original game. Today's story is one of those impossible situations where players of EverQuest, enemies and allies alike, come together to defeat the undefeatable dragon known as Terraform and defy the game creators themselves. So here we go. Let me go over just a little bit about EverQuest before we get into the guts of the story. EverQuest was and still is a 3D fantasy MMORPG, massive multiplayer online role-playing game. It was actually the first successful 3D MMO. It was launched in the March of 1999 and was a massive hit for its time. It laid the foundations for other MMOs such as EVE Online and World at Warcraft. I don't know why I keep saying World at Warcraft. It's World of Warcraft. I know that, but every time I say it, I think about World at War. Anyways, let's continue. EverQuest existed in medieval times where players could choose various classes to play. Monks, rangers, necromancers, and wizards are just a few to speak of. And the player could undertake various quests to complete, dungeons to plunder, and other players to fight. Our story comes in 2003. EverQuest had been live for about 40 years and had released a few expansions. It held over 100 servers, but the one we are focusing on was called Ralos Zek. It was named for a warlord whose religion was domination of the weak. It was a player versus player server on which the dead were left for the dead, their bodies constantly looted by other players. The unsaid theme of Ralos Zek was to defeat your enemies anywhere, at any time, by all means necessary. And out of its anarchy emerged three warring guilds, constantly battling each other in a tribal rivalry. But you see, each server's storyline had its own progression rate, and it was up to the players of the server to complete the raids, plunder the dungeons, and progress the main storyline for the server. But because they were constantly fighting each other, the story didn't progress as fast as the other servers. Also, the story was being held back from progressing for a reason. Players would have to spend months progressing through the icy plains, fighting many ice dragons and other enemies, then progress through the Sleeper's Tomb, fighting an unbelievable amount of enemies, to defeat the Sleeping Dragon's Terraform's Wardens. They were dragon wardens. They would do all that. It would take over a month just for them to start killing the wardens. They would do that to receive amazing loot, but each raid team could only defeat 3 out of the 4 wardens and loot them and then abandon the raid, because defeating all 4 wardens would awaken the sleeper, as they called it, the dragon Terraform, whose health was almost at 1 billion and could kill anything with one hit. When all 4 wardens were killed, the dragon would awaken and would go on a rampage through the dungeon, killing everything and going out eventually into the world and eventually despawning after it killed everything it could. But killing all 4 wardens and allowing Terraform to go on his destructive path marked the end and the completion of the raid. And it would further the story, and when that happened, it locked everyone out from the loot from the wardens forever. So there was a pact among the server that no one would awaken the sleeper, so everyone could continue to farm the wardens for great loot and keep killing each other. Waking the sleeper, Terraform, was a one-time only event on each server, and Ralos Zek, the Ralos Zek server, was the last server on which Terraform still slept. But in reality, all it takes to start an avalanche is one loose rock. And as the story goes, a lizardman monk named Stinkfist left one of the three guilds because of a massive disagreement. He formed his own guild called the Curse, a collection of low-level, small-fry gamers who had only one mission, one of revenge, one of anger, and one of griefing, and that was to awaken the sleeper and essentially ruin everyone's time. It was a dishonorable quest, even by Rallas Zek's immoral code. The curse needed to be stopped, but when word spread of Stinkfist's plan of waking the sleeper, the three guilds called a truce, assembled their forces together, and went after Stinkfist and the curse. In their minds, even if they failed to stop them from awakening the sleeper, the three guilds had thought that combined they would attempt to kill the dragon, gain some sort of insane loot, and become the only server to defeat the sleeper. But little did they know that the developers intended that when players entered the tomb, defeated the wardens, that the dragon would then awaken, kill everyone, and then rampage across the world. Terraform was never meant to be a monster that could be damaged, much less killed, simply a means to further the story of the game. Players that were present for the Sleeper's awakening on all other servers were immediately demolished in one hit. As a result, the dragon was believed to be invincible across EverQuest's 400,000 subscriber base. According to EverQuest lore, the crystal dragon Terraform was imprisoned in the Sleeper's tomb, an icy cave, because he was the child of two dragons from warring families. But regrettably, the three guilds were unable to catch up to Stinkfist in time, and they killed the wardens. They arrived just as Stinkfist was finishing off the last warden, and Terraform was awakened. With a screech, the crystalline dragon attacked. The sleeper killed 10, 20, 30 players, with each hit dwindling down all of the guilds as they jumped into the fray. But as quick as he could, there were healers casting Resurrect on the dead, and the wizards attacked with all of their magic and fighters with their swords. Hours passed, and amazingly, the seemingly invincible dragon was taking damage. The combined efforts knocked the dragon down to 26% health. The sleeper was gonna die. But all of a sudden, without warning, the sleeper simply vanished. As the guilds began to lick their wounds, they stood there in awe. The dragon didn't die, and he didn't fly away, simply disappeared, and everyone stood silent in the empty tomb. The combined guilds had lost multiple levels, thousands of experience points, not to mention all the time it took to get into the dungeon just to have the taste of victory and have it ripped away. Not only did the dragon Terraform disappear, but it made it so that the storyline progressed and they didn't even have a chance to fight it again. Enraged players flocked to in-game customer support game masters for some sort of explanation. The game master said orders came down from Sony Entertainment to despawn the sleeper, that it was never meant to be killed, and Sony believed that the guilds must have been using some sort of cheat or exploit to damage and kill it. With that being said, an uproar erupted from the Rallas Zek server that echoed across the internet. Thousands of players bombarded Sony with complaints. In response, Sony released a statement saying, "Over the weekend, several guilds gathered on Rallas to fight with the sleeper. Unfortunately, their encounter was cut short due to an apparent bug. The bug concerned an NPC in the zone that appeared to have been causing the sleeper to not focus on the player characters. The decision was made at the time to end the event. Further investigation has only served to make it unclear if this was a real issue or not." But obviously, the player base rejected this explanation from Sony, and many looked on at the situation as a cruel power move on behalf of Sony Entertainment. Some believe Sony became intimidated and swooped in to save its unkillable beast. Time passed, and a once player versus player server was now united against Sony. And on November 17th, 2003, Ralos Zek and its 3 governing guilds reconvened to slay the Sleeper, which after weeks of grief against Sony finally agreed to resurrect the Sleeper and issued a public apology. Now they would actually kill the dragon for real. Nearly 200 players collected in the Sleeper's tomb, enough to cause a major zone lag, weighing heavily on Sony's 2003 servers. Even retired EverQuest players emerged from multi-year breaks to witness the fall of the Sleeper. To ease the burden on EverQuest engine, the guilds convened on the MSN Messenger and AIM to talk strategy. Onlookers from the internet and from every other server lurked on these chat rooms just so they can see what happens. Finally, the time had come. Over 200 people in this room. They were ready for the fight. They killed the wardens, and then they began to strategize on what they were going to do. They made sure their clerics were ready to heal and resurrect. Their wizards were casting spells. And so the resurrected Sleeper still managed to wipe out many of the players on each hit. But the clerics cast over 2,000 resurrection spells, and the players managed to do nearly 1 billion damage to the dragon himself. Multiple players began to despawn and being kicked out of the game because of all the lag. They fought this for 6 hours, 200 people, constantly people were dying, being killed, resurrected, but finally, after 6 hours in, a wizard named Trihun got the sought-after Sleeper kill shot. The Sleeper of EverQuest, the allegedly unkillable dragon, finally died. The community rejoiced and congratulated the 200 players. Even Sony Entertainment jumped in with the congratulations. But who knows if it was actually sincere. But of course, the most important question, did any game-breaking loot drop from the Caraferm, the dragon? 6 hours in, over 200 people, 2,000 revives, over 1 billion damage done. Did any loot drop from the dragon? No. No loot was dropped. Of course, this dragon was never meant to be killed. Just simply a means to further the story, a game mechanic. They killed a game mechanic. So, of course, nothing was going to be dropped. The best thing they got was a congratulations from Sony and a congratulations from thousands of people across the game and the internet. The only people to ever defeat the Sleeper back in 2003. And with that, guys, that's going to bring this story time with Lardy to an end. Thank you for coming. Thank you for liking and subscribing. But if not, I'm glad you were just here watching with me today, and I will catch you guys next time.